All right, we back at it. It's drive time again. I was thinking about this earlier today, and I decided to go ahead and make a video about it since I got a pretty lengthy trip I got to take in the car. I think one of the biggest problems that we have with the youth today is this idea of chasing behind influencers, because it can mislead you in a couple different ways, and neither one is good. And I would say a few different ways, I guess, because it might be more that I'm gonna forget about. But if you look at, first we can start with the adults, the young adults, like my generation and beyond. We always had the whole idea of looking at the celebrities and the wealthy people and wanting to be like them. Now, my particular generation actually had better examples. So, I'm 43. I come from the Family Matters, A Different World, Martin, say what you want to say about it, but The Cosby Show. Like, we had images on TV of functional, like, loving families that had problem-solving skills, that could work stuff out. And we had a few rappers sprinkled in there, but the message wasn't as bad as it has been in the generations after me. So, like, we had the worst examples they would come up with for my generation would be NWA, and then moving on from there, Pac and Biggie, moving on from there, Jay-Z, The Lox, DMX. But the thing about even those people were, if you paid attention, they had messages in their content that kind of warned you against the more negative decisions you could make. They never or rarely portrayed this image of, no, go out and do what I did because it's fun and awesome. What brings me to this current generation. They have the most trash role models, and they promote the most trash behaviors. And it's a problem because you will see these people and they lead off with the money they have, and then they switch over into all the stuff that they've done as if that's a correlation. A really good example, which is the one that really made me think about this needing to be said, was this Wes Watson dude. His whole shtick is, I'm a felon. I was about that life. I got money now. I'm a felon. I'll fight. I got money. I was in prison. I did my time. I was a felon. I got money. Like, there's never any distinction between I made mistakes and now I'm better. It's like, nah, I'm still about that life. Like, here's why this irritates me. And this is why I think stuff like this needs to be said, is because people that don't live a wide range of life experiences don't know BS when they see it. I'm from the inner city. My father did 20 years, two separate sentences. So I know the people who Wes Watson is trying to be. They don't act or talk anything like him at all. And even if you looked at some of the other people who are successful who had criminal past or whatever, they don't talk like that either. No one does, especially men. Men will never tell you, I did all this stuff, you should do it too. Unless they still do it and they want to recruit you into their BS. That's it. Otherwise, men don't do that because men generally recognize mistakes and try to prevent younger men from making said same mistakes. That's just how it works. So when I see people like him, it's like, dude, he's not real. Like he's a real person, but he's not a real character. Like his character is very, very false. But if you don't know people who really, really come from that, you'd have no idea. You'd think that that's real. A more realistic portrayal is like T.I. or something, but not him. It's just like felons don't talk or act like him at all. They just don't. So then I have to look at the women's side of it. Again, back in the day, we had Queen Latifah, living single. Again, you had Claire Huxtable, Felicia Rashad. I don't care what y'all got to say about her. We had I wish I could think of the young lady's name off the top of my head, but the one that got the internet stirred up when she said, you know, she wasn't being paid properly and it was just not a fair market in Hollywood. But the ladies had role models of moms, wives, and even then they were still successful and educated. They just weren't nasty. It wasn't an idea of, yeah, go out, take your clothes off and twerk for the gram and get money and, you know, get dudes to buy you bags. Like, this wasn't a thing. And the craziest part about that is, again, I know women who came from those same cultures and circles. I know women who worked in the dancing industry, like the exotic dancing industry. I know women who worked in the porn industry. They never, ever, 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 ever promote it to the youth. Ever. They will always, always say, yeah, I did this, but you shouldn't, and here's why. But now, you got people out here like Megan Thee Stallion, Nicki Minaj. I don't follow none of these new people, so I couldn't tell you all of their names. I just know of a couple. With the Cardi B, like, they out here like, no, trick dudes, get money, pop your stuff out, show it off, use it for the money. And then you got the people on the IG models and this stuff, that stuff, and they the same. And it's like, this is not the people who actually did this stuff don't talk like this. They don't act like that. They don't glorify that as a part of who they are, unless they still in it and they don't necessarily know a way out, kind of thing. And then the reason why I say this is also a tough area, especially for nowadays, is because y'all tend to see end products and think that you can attain said end product without knowing what work needs to be put in to get to that point. So then I'll give an example, like one of the content creators that I like is this dude named MTR, Mediocre Tutorials and Reviews. And you know, he's got a very successful channel. He does some motivational type stuff, some finance type stuff, some reaction type stuff. And it's mostly male centered. I'm pretty sure he can fall in the category of red pill or whatever, but whatever. But the part that's missed if you don't pay attention is he's spoken openly about the fact that he first went to college, got a college degree, and worked in corporate America. So then that alone gives you a different level of freedom to pursue different things without having to suffer a very harsh fall if it fails. Another example is the guy Myron from Fresh and Fit. Like, everybody looks at him as like, oh, he's the whole thing, and he's got the money in Miami and yada yada yada, not recognizing the fact that he was a former FBI agent or something. So I can almost guarantee you, by the time he decided to start the whole podcasting thing or whatever, he already had a sizable nest egg, a sizable set of investments, a sizable set of assets to fall back on if it didn't work. But you got people trying to do it from scratch, thinking that they can just get to that like it's easy. They could do it, but it's not easy. But I'm saying many of the people who you see who are the biggest did it after they were already established in a way to where they could pursue it properly. Because it's going to be very hard for you to jump out and accomplish something like that without having, one, the time to put into it, and two, the safety net to give you the peace of mind to really, really go for it. Because if you still got bills coming, you're going to still have to figure out how to get money right now. And pursuing a career or starting a business means you got to wait till you get money down the line. So you got to sacrifice and suffer a lot up front. And I know, because I know people who have built very successful businesses, and they told me about how much struggle they had to go through in the early stages. And it's a lot, and it's long. And if you're not prepared for that, or if you're not ready for that, that's why most startup businesses fail. And these influencer people don't tell you that. A lot of them don't. Some of them do, but a lot of them don't. Another example I would give is Joe Rogan. Everybody will see Joe Rogan and be like, oh, he's got the #1 podcast in the world. But then the people who don't know the backstory is that he was a successful comedian before that. He was a successful martial artist before that. He had other avenues before that. And then the podcast just blew up over time. But if you want to do the backstory to see how long that podcast has been around, it's been a minute. It's been a minute. And it's like, these are the things that they just don't tell you. They don't give you this part of the thing. Even to the last example I give, because this popped up in another podcast I was checking out a couple days ago. They were talking about dancers and how they would never, one of the people on the panel said, I would never pay for my kids to pursue a career in dance because it's a dead-end job. Now, anecdotally, I can say that's not true, because I myself and many people I know have made a decent living or made a full living off of their dancing. But I can also say that myself included, all of those people would never tell you or anyone to make that their sole pursuit, no matter how good they are. We would never say that. I know people who had full-on Broadway shows in America and abroad, full-on productions. They still had background education in case. I know people, and this is one of my coaches, another one of my coaches, multiple titles across the globe. He still had a degree behind that. Let me think. I can even use myself. Like, I never jumped into saying I was once, maybe, full-time dancer, but usually no. But I always had, and my mom always made it so that my dancing was a backup. It was a thing, it was a fail-safe, so that if I ever couldn't get a job doing something else, I always had dance as a fail-safe. And it just led me into all the other avenues in which I routed it to be able to use it. But I would never tell somebody, sacrifice being educated and having knowledge to pursue dance. I would say, pursue dance, but make it so that it's a functional pursuit. So I tell people, that's a whole different thing. That'll be on my other podcast. But it's more to it than just going on so you think you can dance. I can give another example. So one of the popular dancers amongst the internet and whatever community is the guy Fiction. And everybody looks at him and is like, oh, he's a successful dancer and he made his life dream. But what they always forget is he was already a street performer in Vegas. He had already committed his life to it, and he works way harder than the average dancer does. And if you notice, if you watch his content, he has a backup of his martial arts, and he started to stem off into other things. Like, what I'm saying is, like, these influencer people will show you an end product, and they don't tell you the steps involved to get to that end product. They don't tell you all the stuff in which you're going to struggle and fail on the way to that end product. They don't tell you none of that stuff. These streamers a lot of times don't tell you that they live 8 deep in a house so that they can cut down on all their other bills so they can focus on doing the whole streaming thing. They don't tell you that part. They'll show you that they live in a big old house, but they don't tell you they're living there with 9 other people. Not all the time. If you listen and watch long enough, you kind of figure it out. But nobody leads with that, and especially with these younger people, they don't. You know, like, I listened to a podcast once where a musical artist was talking about they rented an apartment or something for a month, and they just lived in there and never left while they was trying to work on music. You know, a lot of times people don't know that that's part of the grind. They have no idea. So it's like, it bothers me when I see these influencer people give these pictures, but they only give you a tiny bit of the full thing. Because then you get people who try to copy it, but they don't have all the tools and it's like trying to make something without knowing all the things you need to make it. It's like trying to bake a cake, but the person don't tell you all the necessary ingredients. You know it's got sugar in it. You know it's got frosting, but you have no idea what else. And it's like, I gotta stop saying it. It's like, it's one of those things that really, like I said, I think it should be spoken about a lot more and a lot more frequently. I don't expect them to do it. It'd be nice if they did, but I don't expect it. So then you gotta have people like me or otherwise to step in and bring it up and actually talk about it, because otherwise it just won't be said. And then you see all these people who, like I said, fail after failed business after failed business after failed business, and they make the smallest and most easily avoidable mistakes, and they wouldn't have had they just had the full picture first. And a lot of times they don't, because of these influencers. They just don't tell you. So that's it for that one.